So I know it's been out for a little while, but I was just recently able to see Paterson, a movie starring Adam Driver, who plays a bus driver and lives his life. And that's it.
Morning, Donnie. Everything okay?
No, not really. My kid needs braces on her teeth. My car needs a transmission job. My wife wants me to take her to Florida, but I'm behind on the mortgage payments. My uncle called from India and he needs money for my niece's wedding, and I got this strange rash on my back. How about you?
I'm okay.
And I know I made it sound I made it sound a little bit worse than it is, but that's really all that Paterson is. But that's really it. It's just a movie about a man and his wife that live their life, and we get a little glimpse into it in this little week that the movie takes place. The best way to describe it is a slice of life movie. It's kind of a day in the life of movie, but it's over the span of a week. And that's what's really great about this movie, is that that's all it is. And I know it sounds boring, and I know it sounds dry and kind of effortless, but that's all the things that Paterson isn't. And that is why I really, really, really liked Paterson. In the course of a year, we usually get a lot of blockbusters, a lot of big action movies, a lot of dumb action movies, a lot of really poorly made ones that are forced out, all this stuff. And even independent movies, to an extent, kind of get wrapped up in being these studio monsters that just end up falling by the wayside and everyone forgetting about them later. But Paterson is falling by the wayside because I don't think the studio knew how to market it, because it's nothing like I've ever seen. It's just a slice of life movie that's really mundane and really mediocre. Like the lives that these people live are just these middling lives. Just the bus driver that lives in a small house in Paterson, a small city, and drives a bus for a living. And that's what the movie's about. It's just a combination of a bunch of things. And that's what makes Paterson great. That's what makes Paterson better than all of these movies that are marketed as a specific thing. While a lot of those movies do that specific thing very well, Paterson does almost everything very well. Of course, it's not an action movie. There's no action in it, but the closest thing to an action scene is when the electrical circuits in the bus break down and he has to kind of swerve it off to the side and say, all right, we're gonna wait for a new bus to come along. And it's not like a fireball is shooting out of the road and he's dodging missiles and he's drifting the bus around corners and dodging cars, and there's nothing like that. It's just a movie. It's just a movie about life. And I know a lot of people will call this movie boring, because it is, but it's intentionally boring. And I know it sounds weird. You just have to bear with me here, because the movie's all about its characters. It's all about the characters and the setting that they live in. And that is what makes Paterson soar above so many other movies that try to do this, is that its characters are so incredibly well written that they carry the entire movie. All the characters, not only Adam Driver and his wife, whose name I'm spacing on and won't even really try to remember because it's long and I feel like I'd botch it, but that's what makes this movie great, is its characters are so well fleshed out. Even the side characters, they have personality, they have lives, they have backstories, they have struggles, they have passions, and that's great. It was so refreshing to see a movie like this where the characters are the central focus of the movie, and then the movie kind of builds around them. And that was so refreshing to see. It was like taking a breath of fresh air in a time where we're getting hundreds of comic book movies per year. It's just this tiny little movie over here that's just, it knows what it is, and it is what it is.
Your poetry is really good, and someday you might let the world read it. Look me in the eye. You are a great poet.
Everyone in this movie is fleshed out, like I said. All the side characters, they have, their own struggles, they have their own lives, and you can kind of see that. Adam Driver goes to a bar every night, and he talks to the bartender, and you see that he plays chess with himself for whatever reason, and his wife comes in and was telling him that he needed to put the money back that he took to help buy him some things, and then there's a lady that comes in the bar, and the a boyfriend who's head over heels for her, is like stalking her, and not really stalking her, but he just wants to talk to her, and she's saying, nah, get out of here, I don't want to talk to you, all this stuff. And seeing these characters interact in the world is the best part of the movie. The highlight, though, is Adam Driver and the wife character. They really bring this movie home. Adam Driver has this little notebook where he writes poems in, and every time he comes home, his wife's like, you gotta publish it, you gotta put some out so the world can see you're so good. And he's just kind of this timid, nice, but timid and shy kind of person. So he doesn't want to do that, but his wife's this extroverted artist who colors in only black and white, so their whole house is black and white, their cups, their shower curtains, their doorways, everything. And it's these little hobbies and passions that the movie shows that the characters have really make them feel real. You can have great characters that are written really well, but sometimes you don't see their passions or their hobbies, and it makes them feel like characters, where you don't see what really makes them a person. And that is what Patterson does extremely well. You see what makes them a person. I mean, there's a whole subplot in the movie where Adam Driver's wife just makes cupcakes and goes to sell them at a farmer's market and makes like $300. And that takes up like 30 minutes of the movie, just sporadically, where she's just doing that. And it's like, okay, you know, that happens. I could see that happening. I could see that as a person. And Adam Driver just drives a bus, writes some poems, and comes home, and then just has a life. And it was great.
I could be realizing my dream to be a country singer.
Nashville? Here I come.
Look out, Nashville.
Most of all, it's just a tightly shot, well-composed, precise movie. But then there's a couple times when Adam Driver's reading his poems and he's got a voiceover and there's like water gushing over and faces kind of coming in and out of the frame. And that got a little bit too much for this movie, I felt, and that's the really only negative I have for it. But even in those moments, it works pretty well. But the little moments are what sell the movie. Just her asking, hey, you should publish your poems, and him saying, okay, I'll do it later, and you can kind of see in his face and in his voice that he doesn't really want to do it, but she really wants him to do it. And it's just those little performance nuances and those little writing nuances that make this movie really sell, because you get invested in what they want, you get invested in what they like, and you want to see them succeed. And you get these little glimpses at what they're passionate about and what they want to do with their lives. I know it sounds boring, because it just is. It's intentionally boring. So if you can get past the fact that this movie is not trying to do anything spectacular, then I think you can really get something out of this movie. The point of it is to just show that everyone's life, no matter how mundane, no matter how small your income is, no matter how small your living space is, everyone's life is worth living. There's things that you should wake up in the morning for, and that's what Patterson is, I think, trying to show us.
Abashta by in Patterson. Aha.
Aha, what?
This is very poetic.
Get my ass kicked today.
Who are you playing?
Myself.
And I think everyone should see this movie. It works so incredibly well for what it's doing. There's no twists, there's no big plot points or intense moments. The dog doesn't get kidnapped, the wife doesn't have an affair, the husband doesn't have an affair. There's nothing like that. It's just a slice of life. And it's really beautiful in that. So I would recommend Patterson really highly. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. It's one of my favorite movies of 2017 so far. I love this movie, and I'll probably watch it again, and I highly, highly recommend it if you can get past the fact that it's made intentionally to be quiet and to be dull in a sense, to be boring in a sense, and it's great. I freaking really, really like this movie. So go check it out, and I'll see you in the next video.